All right, welcome back to another Wright Stew podcast. I am Paul Stewart.
And I am Brian Wright. Still, hey, after the national championship, pretty awesome.
Yeah, big win for the Buckeyes. Ohio State, once again, national champs. Man, put a pretty thorough performance together last night. Notre Dame showed some fight. They looked good. But
Second
ultimately,
half.
Ohio State seemed to have too much. And I think the big play was that third down at the very end that put it away. And Notre Dame brought the pressure. And they found Smith down the sideline. Yeah, he was pretty quiet in the second half and made that catch. Great throw, just understanding and what was going on with the pressure coming at you and who would be open. They knew they had man coverage on the outside, so really exciting to see that. Brian, what were your big takeaways from the game last night?
Well, I think from the bigger takeaway, I talked to my brother, and only he could verify this. I said 34-20 was going to be the score. I don't know if I said it on here.
Yeah.
Obviously, a little bit off. Notre Dame just didn't have any answers in the first half. Made some good adjustments and had to play nearly perfect. Still would have had a chance if they had made that field goal, little short field goal that I thought they should have went for it there in the fourth, and they didn't.
Yeah. That changed the whole. That would have changed the whole kind of dynamic of what was going on, and Mr. Clutch Jeter hit the field goal a week ago, 10 days ago, but missed. Yeah, boinked it off the field goal posts.
I think it's really one of those things where the minimum that you're going to be able to spend to be a good team. I've seen this going around. It's like $20 million. That's kind of what you're going to have to spend to be able to get enough players to compete.
Yeah, well, they're changing that next year, right? That's kind of going around where there's, because of Title IX, they're going to have to distribute the money in kind of different ways and make sure everybody's getting a piece of it. So how does that affect? And yeah, I mean, it's getting so much more to, it's not amateur sports. It hasn't been for a long time now. And it's, do we instill salary caps, salary minimums? Yeah, I guess the whole crux of this, it was supposed to be NIL, name, image, and likeness, but it's turned into something different, right? With the booster or the collectives or the boosters, whoever you want to call it, because that technically goes through the school. So if you go to true name, image, and likeness, that probably changes things. But as we've discussed before, there's not a whole lot of those really big deals out there. And it's a lot tougher, I think, for a private business to invest in 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, right? They want something that's probably, a little more vetted out.
Especially a freshman that's coming in who really may or may not have done some really good things in high school. Obviously, probably did some good things in high school, but who knows how they're going to turn out in college? I mean, the varied levels of competition, and then just how somebody adjusts.
Well, just from a maturity level as well. Like who is this?
Dude.
Like who is this kid? Like, yeah, people are going to have to vet it. And I know they do it, just normal workplaces now. People are looking through socials to see, like, hey, what's this person like? Do we want to hire them? Are they going to be a stain on our organization because of the behavior that they have? We saw that at the Eagles game a couple weeks ago when the Eagles fan was berating the Packers fan, and guy literally got fired from his job and like kind of disgraced globally. So, a tough investment to make for private organizations.
So I think that's interesting. I also think, I don't know if you remember, Paul, we had that conversation about you still liked it at 4 teams, maybe 6 teams. Neither one of these teams may or may not get in. If it's 4, I don't think either one gets in. If it's 6, maybe Notre Dame does. I don't think Ohio State gets in with 2 losses, with one of them being against what's considered a marginal Michigan team. So I again, just to kind of circle back around, I think the 12, I don't necessarily love how they got the buys and that sort of thing set up, or the home field in the second round, but I think the 12 makes sense. And neither one of these teams would have been in national championship contention 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So it's a new era for sure, but it's hey, Ryan Day kind of gets that monkey off his back, wins the national championship. Still, to me, unlikable. Just not unlikable.
So the people of Ohio,
yeah,
do they forgive him for never beating Michigan now?
I think so. I don't know. I mean, I can relate a little bit just because, we have our light blue friend down the street that is somewhat a rivalry. Clearly not on this level. Not on this level.
Yeah. No.
So would I rather lose to them and win a national championship? Yes.
Of course.
I have a brain. But I'm sure there's NC State fans that would, as long as we beat them, we've had a good year. I think that's a pretty low standard to set. If you win a national championship, everything else is forgiven after that for at least a year or two, even at Ohio State. And, and they've got guys. I think Will Howard, his draft stock has had to have went up.
Yeah.
There's so many good players on both sides of the ball. Notre Dame is still ascending. I think they've got a brand and a product there that may be somewhat unique. I think at one time the idea of a kid coming from Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, and going north and going to that environment wasn't as appealing. But clearly the last couple of years, it hasn't been an SEC team that's won the national championship. So I think some of that dynamic is starting to switch again. And having 12 gives a lot of teams hope. After Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, nobody would have said, hey, you're going to be in the national championship, And so
yeah, absolutely.
I think both teams really had a great season when you look at some of their failures within the season.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of resiliency coming back, making sure you continue to do the right things and stay the course, right? That's ultimately any team sport. That's what it's all about. Just sticking with your guys and continuing to work hard. So congratulations to the Buckeyes of Ohio State. I know they're up there having a good time in Ohio. Speaking of Ohio, we'll give you a little update. That's one of the states that we haven't reached yet. So
there's got to be somebody up there.
Please
click on an image. Click on it. Wright Podcast, Ohio State. We hated on them a little bit, but
we threw out the 50 and 15 challenge, so we're trying to reach all 50 states in the next 15 days. So we're a few days into it. We did pick up another state yesterday, New York. New York is covered. We got New York. So continue to go out and share this podcast, the YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube, make sure you comment in this comment section where you're watching from. We don't have to be able to dive into those analytics as much. So we appreciate that. But if you're a listener, you enjoy it, make sure you're sharing this with others. That's
Hey, another big story, or not really big. I wonder what the implications are, with Trump's inauguration speech really speaking to the, hey, two genders and how that has an impact on women's college sports. And I don't think we've seen it in many sports other than women's swimming, and we've seen it in women's volleyball.
There's some basketball too.
Oh, there is some basketball. I think there's going to have to be some resets there as far as how that looks. I don't think any of us are, necessarily want to discriminate against people what they do in their house. But when it comes to playing against other women, biological women, I think it's pretty clear that you need to play with however you were born or play against whoever you were born.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be something. And I'm sure we'll see some Supreme Court cases in the next couple of years that are fighting that and bringing that up the ladder. But I think you and I are both in the same. But I know we're on the same boat as that. Women play with women, men play with men, however you're born, and there are nuances. We get it, we understand it, but at the same time, man, it's just not the same.
Yeah, and I don't even think there's nuances. Let's be honest. Yeah. I don't even think there's nuances. It's if you're born as a female, play as a female. If you're born as a male, play as a male. And if you want to dress a certain way and your life dress that way, but you just can't play with what you feel or whatever that looks like. So jumping to another subject, man. Had middle school baseball practice last night. Thing I'm noticing, kids are big, Paulie. Kids are big early. It's interesting to see how, all these velocities. I send you stuff at times where a kid in ninth grade, maybe he's a reclass guy, maybe he's not throwing 90 miles an hour. Just the development of kids. I don't know if it's, we talked about it earlier in one of our episodes. Steroids and milk, like milk, and steroids and chicken. I don't know if that's having any impact. But just kind of something to acknowledge that, hey, your time will get there if you're a player, if you're a younger player, you will grow eventually. But man, kids are big early. I mean, it's really, really crazy and physically mature.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think there's more knowledge, there's more information. You and I grew up at the era we did. There was no internet. as younger children, even into young adulthood, the internet was kind of in its infancy.
Right.
And now there's so much out there on training, not only for a sport, but just physically, like building your body. Diet, the whole thing. And now there's so many coaches out there who have started to say, hey, I can turn this into a lifestyle, which is cool. Like if you have a passion and go out there and do that and be, whether it's nutrition and strength coach sort of thing, man, that's really great that we have all these resources now. Right. So I think some of that is really affecting how our, teenagers, tweens sort of thing are ingesting food and taking care of their bodies and growing, right? And depending on what your ultimate goals are, some of it ultimately you just have to be naturally gifted, right? You have to be kind of given those given abilities.
I got a question for you, Paul. Are people just constantly getting bigger? Or are we just going to, like, I remember, like, when I was a kid, like, average height was like 5'9", 5'10". I feel like that's got to be, as nutrition and whatever changes, like, in another 100 years, Paul, will we have, like, the average size be like 6'5"?
Well,
and in another 150 years.
That's like Charles Darwin and all that stuff, right? Like,
well, I'm not against microevolution, but it's really interesting to see. Just feels like people are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, do you think, because we went from, like, I was 6 foot tall, 6'1" with shoes on, but 6 foot tall, and I was probably slightly above average, even playing. And now we go out to an NC State game or we go out to an event. I'm kind of one of the smaller guys. Now, height, we're not talking everything else, but height. And so anyway, it's just interesting how big kids are getting.
Yeah. Well, we stewards are a taller people over here in this household. I mean, I'm 6'5.5", 6'6" on a good day when I stand up really straight. And my kids are always back row middle of every school picture, team picture sort of thing. Yeah. Now that a couple of them are in college, they're still back row, but maybe not middle ultimately. But on the taller side. Even my 7-year-old daughter, we had our first little T-ball picture last year, and she was back row middle, even amongst boys, right? So,
how did that basketball thing work out? What did we end up going to there?
Well,
did we go to practice last night?
We did not go to practice last night. Yeah.
Did we at least text the coach and say, hey?
Well, we use Team Snap. I think my wife, you can check if you're going to be or not going to be at practice. I think we checked the no box that we would not
check no for the rest of the year.
I don't know if there's an option for like a perpetual no. We may just have to. Maybe we'll just show up at the last game, get a little trophy.
Don't be that guy. Just show up for games the rest of the year. Just be like people that we used to talk trash about. Hey, come to practice, and then he wonders,
Yeah.
Y'all are
well, it's not like they're running plays at practice. So we didn't go. I was actually kind of doing some dinner prep around like 5:30 when practice started, and looked up at the clock and was like, "Oh, we should be at practice right now. I guess we're not going." So yeah, I think we checked the box on Team Snap, and move forward from there. So I think we'll end up sending a message in the next couple of days, just letting them know, like, sorry.
I can't believe you become one of those guys. I can't believe it. As such an old school spirit as you are,
yeah.
It's so foreign to me. But anyway, hey, it is. Well, I respect for you standing up for what you believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're an old soul in so many things.
After seeing just. It's just a waste of time. It's
for everybody.
It's just not. She's getting nothing out of it, and we'll do something that's better for her time. You know what she did yesterday? Actually, warmed my heart. She wanted to make bags for like homeless people, so we went to the Food Lion, bought some bars and gummies and some juice boxes and stuff like that. And so we did that yesterday. So look, she's got bigger things that she's trying to accomplish in life right now. She's not worried about basketball. She's out there doing great things as a 7-year-old. So super proud of her for that. And she is really athletic. So I think basketball is probably in her future, just not the very immediate future. So there we are. But, we appreciate y'all listening today. Lots of good things coming up this week. We got championship games coming up this weekend for the NFL, so NFC, AFC title games. We'll be talking about that this week. More hot stove going on for baseball, so we'll be talking about some of the signings, and then spring training is just around the corner. We are excited about that for sure. And then, hey, NBA and college basketball still going on, Brian.
Yeah, we haven't really dove into that. Just, I don't know. The NBA, I used to be a pretty big NBA fan. I mean, I went to games when I was younger, and maybe not went to games, watched games, went to a handful of games when I lived in Charlotte. Man, I was always so mesmerized by their athletic ability and size, and I think somewhat politics had turned me off at times. I think somewhat just them not, it's almost like baseball guys used to get accused of, hey, they play so many games. Are they really emotionally committed to every game? Right now, NC State, from a college standpoint, NC State
very average.
It's no bueno.
They're 9-9, which is the epitome of average. Yeah.
Yeah, and like 2-6 or 2-7, and I think they're 2-6 in the league. And so, yeah, I think there's a number of things that have hurt the NBA for the average fan, for just the moderate fan, and one of the big ones is politics getting in it so hard, and then secondly, them not feeling like you felt like Michael Jordan in that era were like workers. Like, hey, I've got a pail. Hey, we'll go out and party hard. We'll play golf. We'll gamble. But hey, I'm going to go and pick up my lunch pail and go to work. And some of that things just doesn't feel like it's kind of a disconnection between fans and the players. And I don't know. That's the challenge that the commissioner's going to have to put everything back together. But yeah, definitely, it's getting hot. And like you said, the spring training is coming up, and we got some good stories to tell.
Absolutely. So thank you for listening today. Again, hey, we've got the 50 and 15 challenge. If you're listening to this, like it. Hey, share it with folks in other states, but certainly share it with the people that are around you, your family, friends. We appreciate that. And then make sure you continue to follow us on all the socials as well. And hey, don't forget about that merch shop. Check out the merch shop. Good looking stuff, good looking gear on there. Go get you some Wright Stew podcast merch. So thanks for listening today.
Out, go Pack.